Every night, millions of lights illuminate Las Vegas Boulevard. Yet, beneath that brilliance, thousands find refuge on sidewalks, inside storm drains, or tucked away in tents. It's a world that most travelers overlook. A hidden city within the city, ignored, unseen, but impossible to deny. This isn't merely a tale about homelessness in Las Vegas. It speaks to who we are as a nation and what we choose to overlook, until it's no longer out of sight.
I remember being normal, and that's nothing to do. And I can't wait, but I'm still leery about it. I gotta leave all this behind, I know this. But getting back with my family, that's what's really my drive.
The harsh reality of homelessness in Las Vegas. Based on the 2024 point-in-time count, Clark County, where Las Vegas is located, documented 7,906 people living without shelter on a single night. Over half were unsheltered, enduring the scorching desert heat by day and the cold Nevada air after sunset. To put this in perspective, these individuals represent a visible fraction of the more than 770,000 Americans without housing, a figure that has risen nearly 20% nationwide in the past year. In Las Vegas, the crisis stands out vividly, playing out in the core of a city defined by extravagance, fortune, and indulgence.
I'm not a bad person. I've never been a bad person. I'm just stuck. I'm just stuck.
The stories within these statistics are varied. Some are adults who lost employment as rents soared, pushed out of apartments they once occupied. Others are families' entire households with kids uprooted by medical bills or the loss of a single paycheck. And then there are the youth, the most unsettling of all, teenagers who retreat into the city's underground storm drains, preferring the shadows below to the perils of the streets above. At the 2024 Nevada Youth Homelessness Summit, advocates shared a shocking statistic: close to 150,000 homeless youth across the country, with Las Vegas among the worst affected. The toll this crisis takes on human lives is immeasurable. Those residing in improvised tents along walkways encounter constant threats: illness, violence, hopelessness. Picture a family sheltering beneath a tarp, just steps away from visitors, spending thousands on a single evening of entertainment. This is Las Vegas's contradiction, a global playground that simultaneously exposes America's harshest inequalities. Homelessness in Las Vegas is far more than a regional problem. It serves as a reflection, revealing a nationwide shortfall in offering security, dignity, and opportunity for everyone. And unless we face this truth directly, the darkness beneath the neon lights will continue to deepen. So I pose this question: how should a city founded on ambition respond to the nightmare unraveling in its own streets? The role of substance abuse in fueling homelessness. Substance abuse continues to be one of the most damaging forces behind homelessness in Las Vegas, creating a cycle that is both relentless and devastating. Dependence on methamphetamine, opioids, alcohol, and the increasingly prevalent fentanyl strips, individuals of stability draining their savings, breaking family bonds, and destroying their ability to hold jobs or cover rent in a city where housing prices have skyrocketed. For many, addiction is more than a private battle. It's the breaking point that forces them into homelessness. And after losing their housing, the struggle intensifies as the absence of treatment and support entrenches dependency further.
That's something that happened with me due to my addiction. I lost my house, had my own first house, so I lost that because I wasn't making payments because my money was going to drugs. So, it's a constant chase. It's a 24/7 job. You miss out with your family, and you miss out on all the good shit. And that's why I mentioned how just looking at a field to me is beautiful, or just watching beach waves, listening to them crash, things like that. Enjoying the little things. I've been robbed 3 times out here, and it really beat me down to the point where it's that's all materialistic shit. You can get a new phone, you can get a new book bag. What's really important is your time and how you spend it, I think.
The crisis has worsened with the spread of fentanyl, a lab-made opioid up to 50 times more potent than heroin. Affordable, powerful, and widely available fentanyl has emerged as the primary drug in Las Vegas's illicit market, especially within homeless encampments and the city's drainage tunnels. Its hold is brutal. One pill can create addiction, and an overdose can prove fatal in mere minutes. In 2023, Nevada saw unprecedented numbers of fentanyl-related deaths, many involving those already living on the streets. For people without shelter whose health is already compromised by hunger and stress, fentanyl's deadliness is amplified. This vicious cycle of substance use goes beyond destroying personal lives. It erodes recovery efforts community-wide. Those trapped in addiction often lack the focus or strength to seek rehab services or participate in job programs. Las Vegas does offer treatment options, but these centers are under-resourced and overcapacity, struggling to keep pace with the growing need. The outcome is predictable. Individuals remain stuck on the streets, their hope of rebuilding their lives slipping away as their addiction worsens. The effects spread far beyond the individuals themselves. Encampments plagued by intense drug activity frequently turn into hubs of violence and minor crime, overburdening police and emergency responders. Hospitals see waves of overdose patients, stretching resources thin for others. Meanwhile, the sight of people openly battling addiction just steps from the Strip clashes with Las Vegas's glamorous image as the entertainment capital of the world. What does it reveal about our values when a city built on excess cannot provide essential care to its most fragile residents? Substance abuse, especially fentanyl, doesn't merely drive homelessness in Las Vegas. It exposes America's deeper failure to confront a crisis hidden in full view. Root causes driving the crisis. To understand why homelessness has gained such a strong foothold in Las Vegas, we must look past the city's dazzling lights to the deeper dynamics reshaping it. At the center is a harsh housing landscape. Over the last decade, rental costs have climbed far more quickly than wages, driving working families to the edge. Even individuals employed full-time in hospitality and service, the pillars of Las Vegas's economy, struggle to afford rent bills and groceries. When pandemic-era assistance finally ended, those dependent on rental aid or eviction protections were left vulnerable, triggering a sharp increase in housing loss. Yet economics alone cannot capture the full scope of the problem. Mental health is just as crucial. For people coping with untreated depression, PTSD, or anxiety, the lack of accessible mental health care leads to a gradual unraveling. In the absence of strong support networks, individuals slip through the cracks, moving from unstable living conditions onto the streets. The city's strained mental health system cannot meet the soaring demand, leaving thousands without the critical help they require. Layered atop these issues are deep social inequities. Black Americans and Native populations are overrepresented among Clark County's homeless, reflecting decades of systemic exclusion from secure housing and financial opportunities. Domestic violence intensifies the crisis. Survivors, often mothers with children, flee abuse without safe alternatives, finding short-term refuge in overcrowded shelters before sliding into chronic homelessness. Environmental factors add another layer of strain. Wildfires, floods, and extreme desert temperatures in nearby areas uproot families who move toward Las Vegas, seeking stability or jobs only to find a city already overwhelmed. Migration from other states also brings newcomers in search of reinvention, but lacking affordable housing and adequate safety nets, many face frustration and hardship instead. Homelessness in Las Vegas, therefore, stems not from a single cause, but from a complex interplay of economic, social, and environmental pressures that make survival fragile. To address this emergency, the city must go beyond temporary fixes and view homelessness as not as personal failure, but as a shared responsibility requiring immediate structural change. The broader impacts of homelessness on society and the economy. The homelessness crisis in Las Vegas extends far beyond those living in tents or storm drains. Its impact radiates outward, shaping the city's core and challenging its resilience. For those without shelter, each day is a struggle against exposure and danger. Without access to hygiene facilities, clean water, or steady meals, they suffer from preventable diseases and malnutrition. The constant threat of theft or assault makes survival exhausting, and for children, the effects run even deeper. Interrupted education and the trauma of instability can leave lasting wounds, perpetuating inequality long after the crisis itself subsides. For the broader population, the strain is immense. Las Vegas hospitals experience a constant flow of patients whose untreated illnesses worsen outside, ranging from respiratory problems to injuries in hazardous camps. Emergency departments handle these cases, pulling personnel and resources away from other pressing medical needs. Law enforcement outreach teams and sanitation workers face mounting pressure, tasked with managing large encampments while maintaining both safety and humanity. However, these responses often amount to temporary relief rather than real solutions, leaving those on the front lines stretched thin and under-resourced. Tourism, the heartbeat of Las Vegas, also bears the consequences. Tourists seeking luxury and escape encounter visible destitution mere steps from high-end casinos. This jarring contrast weakens the city's polished image, putting both its reputation and economic future at risk. Hotel operators and local businesses fear that unchecked homelessness may damage the very allure sustaining their livelihood. The economic toll is immense. Each year, millions go toward emergency shelters, healthcare costs, and sanitation efforts, but most of this money addresses symptoms rather than root causes. The relentless pull on public funds limits opportunities for strategic investments in housing or prevention. At the same time, social rifts widen. Some advocate for compassion-driven measures, while others push for stricter crackdowns to clear encampments. This divide underscores a fundamental choice: whether Las Vegas will face homelessness with empathy and planning, or settle for temporary measures that prolong the crisis. In the end, what happens on its streets forces the city to confront a question that reverberates nationwide. How can a country so adept at projecting wealth and spectacle reckon with the poverty lying in plain view? Current efforts and their limitations. Las Vegas has not turned a blind eye to its homelessness emergency. In recent years, local officials, county departments, and nonprofit groups have launched programs designed to offer relief and pathways towards stability. The Courtyard Homeless Resource Center, situated near downtown, stands out as a prominent example, a 247 facility where hundreds can access a bed, a meal, and a brief escape from life on the streets. For many, it represents the initial step toward reconnecting with critical services, including healthcare and job programs. Additional initiatives seek to lower housing obstacles by simplifying paperwork, expanding rapid rehousing vouchers, and providing workforce training. These actions show a readiness to address the problem, but they remain small in scope compared to the enormity of the crisis. Nonprofit organizations continue to carry an essential portion of the burden. The Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth NPHY champions young people through outreach and emergency housing, spotlighting one of the most at-risk populations. Catholic charities, religious shelters, and grassroots groups deliver meals, clothing, and transitional housing to those in need. Their commitment is unwavering, yet the demand vastly exceeds available resources. Many of these organizations deal with persistent funding gaps, exhausted staff, and weak coordination, producing fragmented services that overlap in some areas while leaving others unaddressed. The shortcomings of current strategies are apparent. Most programs still center on short-term aid, temporary housing, food assistance, or emergency care. Although these services are indispensable, they seldom tackle the underlying drivers of homelessness: the dire lack of affordable housing, inadequate mental health care, and the pervasive impact of addiction. Treatment programs are overwhelmed, leaving many without access to recovery services. Just as concerning is the lack of a unified long-range plan. Public agencies, nonprofits, and private partners frequently act independently instead of forming genuine collaborations, creating a patchwork system that struggles to keep up with the escalating problem. Unless Las Vegas shifts from short-term measures to coordinated, sustained solutions, its efforts will remain temporary fixes, well-meaning but insufficient to confront a crisis of this magnitude. Long-term solutions and the path forward. For Las Vegas to tackle its homelessness crisis effectively, it must shift from short-term responses to structural reforms that address its underlying causes. At the heart of this shift is housing. Increasing the supply of affordable homes through developer tax breaks, public-private collaborations, and repurposing empty buildings into livable units remains the top priority. Without stable housing, other interventions lose their impact. A housing-first model, successfully used in cities like Houston and Salt Lake City, provides a blueprint. Las Vegas could follow, making shelter a fundamental right rather than a condition. In tandem with housing, comprehensive health care must become an integral part of the plan. Expanding mental health services and addiction recovery programs is essential, particularly as fentanyl and meth continue to ravage communities across Clark County. Mobile clinics, crisis response centers, and sustained investment in long-term treatment options would help individuals not just survive, but rebuild their lives. For youth, early prevention is equally critical. Schools' after-school programs and mentorship initiatives can act as safety nets, intercepting at-risk teens before they fall into chronic homelessness. Collaboration will ultimately decide the success of these measures. A unified approach linking public agencies, nonprofits, medical providers, and businesses can minimize overlap and maximize results. Rather than scattered assistance, Las Vegas requires integrated case management that guides individuals smoothly from outreach to housing, health services, and employment. Evidence-based methods, monitoring progress, evaluating effectiveness, and ensuring accountability can make sure resources are deployed wisely. Changing public attitudes is just as vital. Homelessness is not something to be hidden from tourists. It is a human emergency that calls for compassion and systemic solutions. Awareness efforts paired with civic participation can generate the political momentum needed for transformative change. Las Vegas has perfected the craft of reinvention, turning barren land into a world-renowned destination. That same creativity and determination can be directed toward addressing homelessness. The challenge now is whether the city will extend that innovative energy to its most marginalized, proving that even in the nation's playground, humanity can shine as brightly as neon lights. Personal reflection. As I move through Las Vegas, I'm constantly struck by its paradoxes. On one side, gleaming skyscrapers promise endless pleasure. On the other, a man lies on the sidewalk with only a tattered blanket for warmth. To me, this is more than data or headlines. It's a moral confrontation. I have spent years examining homelessness throughout America, and nowhere does the contrast appear more intense than in this desert where excess and despair coexist. What I witness in Las Vegas serves as a reminder that homelessness is not merely the outcome of bad decisions or misfortune. It stems from systems that fail to catch people when they fall. A sudden medical expense, a lost job, or a broken relationship can push someone over the edge into homelessness. Once they're returning is a steep climb, particularly when affordable housing is limited and mental health or addiction services are overwhelmed. Beyond figures and legislation lies something deeper, our collective duty. Do we define progress only by visible wealth, or also by how we care for those who have none? Las Vegas, with all its brilliance, holds the power to inspire. If this city can create dancing fountains and replicas of world landmarks, it can also envision solutions for those sleeping in the shadows. For me, this issue feels personal, not from lived experience, but because I believe apathy is not an option. To walk by suffering without recognition is to accept it, and that is something I refuse to do. Conclusion. The homelessness emergency in Las Vegas is more than a local issue. It mirrors the nation's deepest divisions. In a city celebrated for its glittering lights, thousands remain unseen, battling addiction, poverty, and entrenched systemic obstacles. Yet within this harsh truth lies an opportunity for transformation. Las Vegas can demonstrate that empathy and innovation are not at odds, but can work together to create a stronger future. Through backing shelters, expanding affordable housing, and advocating for meaningful policy change, each of us can make a difference. By choosing action instead of indifference, Las Vegas can become not only a city of aspiration, but a city of dignity where no one is overlooked and every life matters.